round up today's top stories in the world of science tech with our science and technology expert, Dan Riskin. It's amazing that we choose Dan for this segment since that is his expertise. And Dan, this is a really good one here. You know, we hear this all the time. My supermarket actually plays different music depending on the zone. But does playing the music make you buy more?
Yeah, why do they play music in the supermarket, and what is it doing to me as a consumer? I love this stuff. This is from the Journal of Marketing Research, and I don't mind that they're playing tricks. I just want to know what the tricks are. You know, when you go to a supermarket, everything is geared to take your money away from you. So why the music? What's the magic there? And so this is a study they did in Europe where they took 3 different supermarkets, and for 1 week each, they played either Muzak, you know, that background music where you kind of know the tune, but you have to listen carefully, or music, like, you know, the songs you would hear on the radio, or they played nothing. And they looked at spending patterns of people who went into the stores. And basically, if there's music, you spend 9% more than if there's no music. Doesn't matter if it's the Muzak or the real music, but 9% more. But here's the kicker, only on weekdays. On weekends, there's no effect.
What?
Which is crazy, right? I know. So the thinking is that on weekdays, you pop into a supermarket to grab a rotisserie chicken on the way home, you're exhausted, and that music relaxes you more, and you're more likely to act on your instincts to, I'll grab a chocolate bar, or I'll grab this off the shelf. When you go in on weekends, you're better rested, you're not in that frame of mind, and you've got a list usually, and you're ready to buy things for the week. And so people shop differently during the week and on weekends. And so if you're somebody that's trying to save money, just be aware that you might have your guard down when you pop into the supermarket on the way home from work on the weekdays.
Wear earplugs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Maybe wear earplugs.
Next time I'm going to the supermarket, yeah, those things are going in. Or maybe, you know, on the weekend, you're already in party mode, so you're not affected by the music.
Yeah, you're already spending more, exactly.
Okay, and this is interesting, Dan, because, you know, we say that dogs are man's best friend, but now they might be kids' best friend because a new study shares how dogs can actually help kids with stress relief.
Yeah, I mean, kids feel stress just like grown-ups do, and you can measure stress by basically the way to measure it is kids spit into a test tube, but you can measure something called cortisol, and so you can get really accurate measurements of how stressed a kid is. And so what they did for the study is they just had kids pet dogs. They took therapy dogs into schools. The kids got to pet the dog for 20 minutes twice a week. And that was one group of kids. Another group of kids did mindfulness exercises where they sat on yoga mats and did breathing exercises. And another group of kids did nothing. And they just looked to see what happens to a kid's stress levels. And you won't be surprised to know that the dogs work magic. When kids pet dogs, it drops their stress right away. That's true of neurotypical kids. It's also true of kids that have special learning needs. But the other really interesting thing is that if you look across a longer span of time, across a whole semester, kids tend to get more and more stressed as the semester goes on. And these are just like 5 or 6-year-old kids. But when you have that dog present, the kids don't get more stressed over the semester. So it has that long-term benefit as well.
You need canines in the classroom all over the place, it sounds like, Dan. We only have about 30 seconds left, but another story about pets that may help the brains of the elderly as well.
Yeah, this is a long-term study out of Michigan. Basically, as in a nutshell, ages 65 and over, people who have a pet and have had that pet for at least 5 years show better cognitive performance than people who don't have a pet. And so this suggests that those cute little puppies that are great for kids are great for us all through our lives, even in old age.
Absolutely. And we got to run the cute B-roll twice of all those puppies.
Yes.
And then there's our cutie,
for the puppy B-roll.
Dan Riskin, right there, our science and tech guy. All right, Dan, great to chat with you as always. We'll see you back here next week.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, as you know, we are well into winter, and the combo of dry conditions outside and a little bit of indulging in the holidays can actually lead to, get this, acne breakouts. For a look at the science and also a look at how to deal with pimples, we're joined by dermatologist Dr. Renita Ahluwalia from the Canadian Dermatologist Centre. So much to talk about when it comes to skin during the winter, Dr. Ahluwalia, because we know that when it gets cold outside, when it gets dry, that can actually increase sebum production, right?
That is 100% correct. So there's 2 main things with acne in the winter. So the first part is you get inflammation in your skin. When those temperatures drop, and ours drop very quickly, the skin barrier, so that's the top layer of our skin, it can't hold moisture as well as it could before because there's little breaks. So when the barrier becomes like this, irritants can go into the skin, moisture comes out of the skin, and that leads to inflammation. And so inflammation, we know, leads to acne. And the other part you just mentioned is the sebum production. So our skin doesn't know what to do when it becomes dry, and we try to protect ourselves. So the little glands in the skin called the sebaceous glands produce increased sebum. And that's the other factor. Sebum production leads to more acne.
And I have to ask this, Dr. Ahluwalia, because I'm sure there are many viewers out there like me. When we see something come out of our face, you know, we might be perfectionists. We're so tempted to squish it and pick it, whether it be blackheads or whatever it is. I mean, I'm obsessed with watching some of these pimple popping videos. They can be quite extreme.
Totally.
Is it a myth that when you squeeze or pop a pimple that it can spread to other areas of your face? Is that true?
Well, yes and no. So if you pop a pimple that's an area of inflammation and you're irritating that area, then you're going to get more inflammation in that area, which could subsequently lead to another pimple. It's hard to not touch things on your face, and even as a dermatologist, I'm guilty of that sometimes. But you want to pick the right pimple, right? You don't want to go for something that's deep down, a big cyst that you're trying to, you'll aggravate it and you'll just cause more inflammation. So.
Yeah, you can't be like drilling for oil when it's not at the surface when it comes to our face. All right, Dr. Ahluwalia, I know that you have some tips for people, especially for people who might think that, you know, oh, I should dry it out, but moisturizing is key, isn't it?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. So the skin barrier, that top layer of our skin, is crucial in skin health. So people with acne automatically think, okay, I shouldn't put moisturizers on my skin. That could lead to more acne. But we know now that a healthy skin barrier actually reduces acne and reduces inflammation. So I like layering moisturizers. So I like, you know, a serum that has a little bit of hyaluronic acid in it to start. Hyaluronic acid is a humectant, so it draws water into the skin. And then I like to use an emollient type moisturizer, which is a little bit thicker, that contains ingredients like ceramides, cholesterol, fatty acids. It's a really good way to hydrate the skin with different mechanisms of action. And then during the day, if you have a spray that has some hyaluronic acid, just to add that hydration in, if you're coming from outside, from harsh elements, it's a nice add-on.
Okay, and let's talk about, you know, hydrating from within. I always hear that if you want great skin, you should drink a lot of water or, you know, cut certain things in or out of your diet, I should say. So is that true? Should we be drinking more water and, let's say, not touching dairy?
You know, that's another excellent and a little bit controversial question. I think hydration is key, right? So anything that promotes a healthy lifestyle will promote skin health. So if you're drinking lots of water, if you're eating foods that are good for your body, and that's individual, right? So there are studies that implicate dairy in acne, and it's not for everybody, but if you notice that, then avoid it.
Okay.
Anything that causes inflammation in the gut can lead to inflammation in the skin.
Right, and very quickly, what about alcohol and acne? Because we've been talking about indulging in the holidays with sugary treats and also, you know, alcoholic beverages. Does that have an influence on acne?
It can, sure. Anything that, you know, causes stress on the body, causes inflammation on the body, can lead to inflammation in the skin. So, you know, you have to live, but everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation. That's a great message. Listen, I learned a lot. Dr. Renita Ahluwalia, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
On
It was my
CP24
pleasure.
Breakfast. Good to see you.
What?
To find the dog.
A psychic?
Listen, when I was a young skid, my parents, they owned a chow chow named Tatiana Pomplamoose, and I know I seem like I've been a bit emotional throughout all this, but that's just because Tatiana went missing one evening.
Doesn't matter.
Anywho,
Let's go up Wallace Way.
I'll take Eden Way.
I need fuel.
West End?
Well, then.
All right, pitter patter, let's get at her, because the Canadian comedy series Letterkenny, it's back for its 11th season. 11 seasons. It's now streaming on Crave, started on Christmas Day. So for more on what you can expect from this season, if you're not caught up already, we're joined by Toronto actor, originally from Oakville, Evan Stern. Good to be chatting with you, Evan. Thanks for joining us this morning on Breakfast.
Yeah, good to be chatting with you as well.
Okay, so let's get into this, because I've watched a few episodes of Letterkenny, but I'm not quite sure that I get the show. It's quirky, it's unique, it's original.
Yeah.
As an actor who is on the show, do you get it necessarily?
That's fair. I don't get it all the time. Sometimes I have to read the scripts about 30 times before I understand what they're actually saying. And then even when I watch the show back, I have to reconsult with the writers and the director to know what's going on. But I find that the audience understands it, which is the most important part. They get in there and they watch the seasons 8, 9, 10 times, tell me how much they love it and how they want more of it. And so You know, we just keep making it.
Yeah, I mean, and the great thing is they're very bingeable brief seasons, right? I
Absolutely,
mean, you're
yeah.
talking like, was it 6 episodes?
Yeah, 6 episodes with a special usually.
Exactly, right? So it kind of, you can really sit there and just sort of watch it in one afternoon and sort of take it all in.
Yeah.
But how would you explain it to people who don't, like, you see the promos, these Letterkenny promos run all the time.
Okay,
How
yeah.
do you try to explain it to someone who says, yeah, I've heard of your show, Evan, like if you're at a Christmas dinner with your
Yeah.
uncle and they say, oh, I hear you're on Letterkenny. I don't get it. What's it about? How do you describe it?
Okay, so I'd usually start with like, it's a small town in Canada, and then they kind of get the general setting of it, but then there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of puppies, and most of all, there's like a lot of friendship. A lot of the people in the stories will hate each other, then
Yeah,
love
the
each other.
rivalries,
There's a
too.
big
Yeah.
rivalry, and then it usually ends with a big fist fight. Is kind of how the show goes. Yeah.
It's kind of a small town picture of Canada, right? Letterkenny, this place. But you know, some of the topics that you touch on, you talked about puppies. Lost puppies was kind of a big factor in the series this year, and your character role, you're a skid.
Yeah.
You get kind of emotional about this.
Hey,
how do you
Evan
find
gets
that
emotional
place?
about it too. I
Okay.
totally get
Yeah.
it. No, well, I mean the idea of like a lost dog. Come on, who does that not
For sure.
affect? I have a lot of memories as a kid of losing my pets. I don't know where we kept them, but finding things to relate to in Rolled, it's just a lot of like he's loyal to his friends, he's excitable, he means well. So there's some of that in me. Am I allowed to say there's fewer drugs?
Sure.
That's the difference. That's
Yeah.
the difference between Rolled and Evan. Yeah.
Right. What's it like on set? Like, take us kind of behind the scenes, because
Sure.
it looks like when you watch the episodes, it looks like you guys are having so much fun,
Yeah, we are.
and that there's a lot of cohesion there
Yeah.
amongst the cast. What's it like kind of behind the scenes before your takes? Because based on the dialogue and the writing, it seems like there'd be a ton of laughter and cracking up, and then you try to get it together for the scenes.
That's fair. I would say that for the most part, yeah, there is a very small window of time which we can shoot, so there's like 2 or 3 takes. So we try really hard not to laugh, but when it does happen, there's nothing we can do to stop it.
Right.
So we do have these times where we have 2-3 minutes to get the end of the day, and someone will start to crack just the smallest bit of smile, and you're like,
Right.
you need to get it together. You need to stop. You
Yeah.
need to be a professional.
Yeah.
And that doesn't usually help. So
That's got to be tough, right?
Yeah, it does.
And I mean, I guess on a 6-episode show, you don't really have a whole lot of shooting
we
time
have
either.
no shooting time.
Yeah.
Compared to a normal TV show, we shoot in 1 month.
Yeah.
Normal TV shows shoot 6, 7, 8 months of the year. So cram it all in.
And it's caught fire. What are you hearing about response to season 11 this year?
A lot of positive, but then again, I feel like people would only reach out to me to say nice things, which is
Well, that's rare for the
very
social media
fortunate.
era.
I know.
Yeah.
No, we got a great fan base. The occasional, I'm sure person is like, we need more episodes, which is a totally fine criticism for me. But yeah, generally very positive.
It's been great hanging out with you on the couch and sort of looking back at
enjoy.
Letterkenny. So thanks so much for joining us here on CP24 Breakfast today. Good luck with the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Pleasure.
meet you as well.
Cheers.
Well, from the 1988 George Lucas classic feature film, we entered the world of Willow in a new series that was released in the fall.
Trapped here until the things that brought us here come back.
You saw him?
Monsters. But I haven't seen anybody since I got here. Except for you.
And you've tried to leave.
I did. I walked for days or weeks. But somehow the city, it brought me.
What?
So now, the season finale of Willow is streaming today exclusively on Disney+. And for more on the adventures and the look back onto the season is Toronto star Dempsey Brick. Dempsey, welcome to CP24 Breakfast. So good that we have some Toronto Canadian representation on this major Disney+ series.
Yeah, thanks. No, I'm happy to be here. I've never done anything like this before, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Well,
really excited.
I've seen you on screen, so I think you're going to be you're going to nail it out of the park or hit it out of the park. Let's talk about this series because we just saw a scene of you in the Immemorial City, and not to give too much away, but we had your twin sister on the show.
Did you?
Ruby Cruz and Tony Rivolori, they
Yeah.
were here. So talk about why this show will kind of satisfy everyone's appetite.
Well, so, okay, especially now, the finale's coming out today, and it's all of the loose ends being tied and all the questions that John Kasdan, who's the writer, has layered in, they're all being answered. And I actually haven't seen it, so
Okay.
I'm really excited to get home, basically right from this, and then to put it on. But it's got everything that you would hope for in a finale. It's got, like, action that we trained. I trained for that for months, just also because I was kidnapped and didn't have a lot to do. So they're
Right.
like, well, do something. Go to the stunt room. And they got new magic nobody's ever seen. It's like everything's been building with all the character arcs building to this finale. So
Right.
it'll be really satisfying.
Yeah, the story is really about a group of like kind of unlikely unsung heroes coming together on this mission to really find you, because you do get kidnapped in episode 1. Then we see you again kind of end of episode 4, and then 6, 7, 8. You play a pretty big role in the finale from what I understand. I was kind of expecting to see you today in your party clothes, because that's what we see you in, you know, and you play the prince, who is kind of like not a womanizer, but a playboy who falls in love with a very important character on the show. Do you think that your character goes through this process of self-discovery that the other characters go on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you meet this really happy-go-lucky. It's funny. This is like, probably like the 4th time someone said Playboy, and I've had to try to keep a straight face, and I'm failing, and now I've called it out, which is even worse. But basically, you have the happy-go-lucky, really privileged, literal royalty, and then he's taken away from everything, like all of his comforts that he's used to, and he's put through trials and tribulations. So that's been the journey up till now. That's been the arc, and that was what was really interesting for me to take someone so privileged and so kind and loving in a genuine way, and be like, okay, well, how much can you withstand before that starts to change? At the end of 7, he changes very drastically, and that's where we pick up.
Okay, absolutely. And, you know, going back to, you said you had to train a lot of them. You said that a dream for you was to be able to do your stunts.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we did that. We had the best stunt team. I'm convinced the best stunt team in the world. And a lot of the show, I didn't have to shoot. So I'm on set, and they're all, going through the mud, and I'm just in the stunt room. And they indulged me, and they taught me all these different techniques. And so by the end of it, I was doing all of my own stunts, and you'll see some of that in 8 without giving away too much. But I'm really excited for that. I can't wait to see that bit.
And, you know, this show has new stars like yourself and the rest of the young cast, but also Christian Slater makes a cameo in the show, as well as Warwick Davis, who's been in, a ton of Star Wars films, returning as Willow as well. So can you tell us, will there be a season 2 at this point?
We don't. I mean, I think we just have to wait and see. But it was a dream to work with those guys. I learned so much from those guys, and I love that you had Ruby and Tony on here.
Yeah, they were awesome. We did like a little
guys.
magical chant. So, okay, listen, Dempsey, before we let you go, I want to kind of put you to the test. A bit of spontaneity here. Can you look into the camera and give us those, Prince Charming eyes, and give us your greatest kind of suave pickup line? Go.
Hey. Are you my appendix? Oh, sorry, I just had this funny feeling in my stomach like I needed to take you out.
Oh, nailed it! Hands up, Dempsey Brick, killing it. As Prince Eric in Willow, you can catch the season finale streaming today on Disney+. Hey, I can see why you beat out a bunch of British lads for the role. Thank you so much for joining us on CP24 Breakfast. Take care.
But won't we lose the fight to the men and be forced to forgive them anyway?
I want to stay and fight too.
No one's surprised that you do. All you do is fight. Is this really how we are to decide the fates of all the women in this colony? Just another vote where we put an X next to our position? I thought we were here to do more than that.
You mean talk more about it?
Based on the novel by Miriam Towes, Sarah Polley's film Women Talking focuses on a group of Mennonite women who take action to protect themselves against the men in their colony who are sexually assaulting them. The film stars Frances McDormand, Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley, and Toronto actress Michelle McLeod. And for more on the film's nationwide release, January 20th, we're joined live in the studio this morning by Michelle McLeod herself. Michelle, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you. Listen, you are remarkable in this film, as with all the other actresses.
Thank you.
Now, this movie, from what I understand, is Canadian author Miriam Towes, her imaginative response to the real-life horrific events that happened in Bolivia. She herself grew up in a Mennonite village in Manitoba. So tell me what the women in this film are talking about. I understand they have 3 choices.
Yes, so the 3 choices in this film is to stay in, or do nothing, stay and fight, and leave. So the imaginary tale about this is kind of where Miriam picked up was, what if the women had the opportunity to talk just amongst themselves for 24 hours without any men influencing their conversation? What kind of things could they talk about? What kind of perspectives could they come up with on their own? This was the first opportunity these women had to think on their own without someone telling them what to do or how to be or how to act. So it's a really kind of revolutionary moment for these women, and they really have to decide how they want their future to be after these events, which are, as you mentioned, like very horrific.
Yeah, horrific, shocking, pretty catastrophic. I'm curious to know, you've wanted to be an actress since you were a very young girl. You watch musicals with your grandmother.
Yeah.
You've been in a ton of stuff. I can't even list them all right now. But when this opportunity came up to work with Oscar-nominated director Sarah Polley, Canadian legend pretty much, and all these other big names, besides that, what drew you to the story?
Well, you know, Sarah Polley, anything with her name attached to it is going to be amazing because she's a genius. And honestly, when I first read this script, it was all about kind of making sure that I knew the story was important. I knew that what this script was, what this book was that Miriam wrote was very poignant and emotionally intelligent. And it was very important for me to do my best kind of representing these characters because I felt like I had a voice where these women who are in these real situations don't still have a voice. And so for me, going into this audition, it was about bringing justice to the story and doing it right. And lucky for me, I got cast in the film.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been like an amazing journey and I've learned so much. But honestly, this film is so great because it starts so many conversations and can draw so much perspective. And to be in a film like that is like, honestly, a true honor.
Yeah, and in this film, you play Mijal, who is like a kind of young girl who's very wise beyond her years. You kind of chain smoke. You're the younger sister of Marash. So tell us about, you know, how you had to prepare for this very vulnerable scene in this film. You know, we saw Claire Foy. She gets really angry in this film. But I know that you're a competitive axe thrower. So did you have to throw axe at anybody in this film? But let's go back to the vulnerability part first.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I think this was the most vulnerable audition I ever did. There's a part in the film where my character, like, she kind of deals with her anxiety by pushing it down, and she doesn't quite understand her mental health or anxiety for that matter because they've never had a conversation. It's never been something that's been brought to light in this colony. So the way that she deals with it is by having a vice, and that's the smoking. And for me, it's interesting because we filmed this and auditioned for this during the pandemic. And I don't know about you or anybody else, but I for sure had a panic attack during the pandemic. And it was a very scary thing. And I think a lot of mental health issues were brought to light at that time. And for me, having had that experience on my own, trying to learn and understand what that is like, I was able to kind of bring that into my audition with Sarah and kind of show my representation of what it's like to have to go through something or kind of work through something that you might not understand. So super vulnerable opportunity, and I hope I did it justice. I mean, Maëlle is a strong woman. They're all strong women, and I think that it's very important that these women learn what it's like to have to go through this type of situation.
Absolutely. There's a line in this film.
Coping mechanisms.
Yeah, that says that, you know, the real horror lies in the silence. But these women come together as a community, talk about it, and heal. Listen, Michelle, we can't wait to see your portrayal of this character in Women Talking. Nationwide release date, January 27th. Go catch it in theaters. Michelle McLeod, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I should say. The film's out January 20th. Go watch it.